How do they do it? Why do they do it? Riding and crashing and riding and winning and always faster and faster and faster.
Well, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to With Antone MotoGP 2025, and we're looking at the Jerez round 5 of the MotoGP coming up next weekend, which is really the start of, well, Europe tends to be the start of the actual real racing, and guess what? It's must-win time. Pecco Bagnaia has to win. There's no alternative now. He either wins this weekend or I don't think he's a chance in the championship. And look, we saw what happened previously. Remember in KL last year, Kuala Lumpur, he had to win. He had to beat Martin. And what happened? He didn't do it. He couldn't do it. He was out in the sprint race and he threw it down the road. I think he lost it on that left-hand bend. The front went away from him and he crashed. So that's his challenge. He has got to win this weekend. Now, speaking of winning and Martin, let's talk about Aprilia, one of my favourite subjects, Aprilia management. Seems they're really starting to regret the signing of Jorge Martin. I think if we remember last year, Marquez turned down Pramac, which was Ducati at the time, for the works bike. So Ducati said they were signing Mark Marquez. So in, apparently 30 or 40 minutes, they put together a deal and signed Jorge Martin. Now Rivola is off the record saying perhaps he regrets that decision. Perhaps he regrets the fact that they've signed Jorge Martin, because 2025 for Aprilia, it's 100% off the rails. What's happened, you remember last year, they had Vinales and Alex Espargaro, and they were doing okay. But this year, it just hasn't worked. We've had Aprilia management failing on 4 occasions. I think that's the total. You've got Bezzecchi, who really hasn't lived up to the opportunities of what he's done. Agura has been the shining light, the young talent from Moto2. Otherwise, you've got nothing happening with Aprilia. Now, what is the plan for Aprilia? Salvadori, great, well, some say great test rider. I'm unsure about that myself. But I don't believe he's up to racing for Aprilia in MotoGP. So what are they going to do? Are they going to promote someone? Who have they got? They don't have a World Superbike team. Are they going to bring someone in from outside the Grand Prix area, or maybe a Moto2 rider? I don't know who. Maybe if you've got some thoughts about who they can bring in, drop it in the comments, because even though Jorge Martin, I think, was discharged from the hospital in Doha, he's still in Doha. He's going to be there for a while. So what is Aprilia going to do? And more importantly, how do they get the bikes up to the front of the grid? I mean, they have to do something, Aprilia. This season was supposed to be the big season. Aprilia management have done a pretty good job on ruining that. Maybe now their saving grace is to bring someone else in to ride the bike. And perhaps they can do some sort of wild card, bring a rider in that's not contracted to another team. I mean, you have to go outside the Yamaha, Honda, Ducati field. But let me know your thoughts. But what will Aprilia do, and how do they get their bikes to the front of the grid? Speaking the front of the grid, what about these rumours of Pedro Acosta? So I'm reading that HRC, the Honda Racing Corporation, are looking to table a 3-year deal for Pedro, around 10 million euros a year, if you can believe it. That'd put him in the top couple of paid riders. I don't know whether he's demonstrated he's worth that sort of money, but that would make it apparently it's a $30 million offer over 3 years. Plus, they will pay out or buy out the KTM contract if needed. Now, a KTM racing pass this year. I think in a previous video here on With Antone MotoGP, we talked about the summer break for big news on Pedro Acosta, and I believe that HRC are looking pretty good to put him on the bike. And when you consider that we talked about last week with Toprak coming from World Superbikes, you think of this and think about this as a team for HRC. Pedro Acosta and ToprakRazgatlıoğlu, which is a mouthful for me, I've got to say. How about that? And of course, this weekend in Jerez, we've got Alex Espargaro coming back from having a pause from his semi-professional cycling career. I don't know if you've seen the pictures of him, but he's certainly looking lean. He's certainly been doing the kilometres, but that would make something for a deal for HRC. While we're talking about rumours and changes for 2026, we've got to talk about Toprak and Pramac. Now, we know famously, I think a season and a half ago now, Toprak did test on the Yamaha, but singular failure. He couldn't get comfortable on the bike. He wasn't used to the Michelin tyres and the seating position was wrong. But there's also a rumour that perhaps Toprak might be jumping to Pramac next year. Now, that would either put Jack Miller's ride under threat or Oliveira's ride. And you'd have to think on form, perhaps that's Oliveira. So let's see. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what's going to happen in Jerez this weekend. Let's like to look back at this time in these preview shows. And look, I've got to say thanks to everybody who watched the post-Doha review show. Really great. I'm really happy with the comments. So keep the comments coming. If you've got some thoughts or if you've got something that you want me to talk about, then let's do that. 2024, let's look at those results. Bagnaia beat Marquez. Of course, Marquez was on the Gresini machine. Martin crashed out, if you remember the results, and Bezzecchi finished third. So this is good for Bagnaia. But then again, we know about Marquez and the form that he is. Let's also drop back to 23. Now, 2023 was an amazing race. I don't know whether you remember it, but yes, Bagnaia was victorious. He stood on the top of the podium. But second and third, let me ask you, do you remember who was second and third? Well, two KTMs, Brad Binder in second and Jack Miller running in third in 2023. So this is quite an amazing thing. If you want my prediction for this weekend, look, it's Mark Marquez. I don't think Bagnaia has got the mental strength or capacity. Ducati is starting to consume themselves from the inside. I mean, why sign a champion when you have a champion? Ducati have made this problem. I mean, we talk about Aprilia management, but Ducati management created the problem for Bagnaia by bringing in Mark Marquez. Now, you had a champion 2 years in a row. So what do? You bring in the greatest rider of all time, Mark Marquez, and you cause this problem. And finally, as we know, Ducati, the number of wins, they've had 21 wins in a row in the Premier class. But now they've passed MV Agusta, who had 20 wins. If they win this weekend, and I'm sure Ducati will win this weekend, that will equal the record in 1997 that Honda and HRC did. Remember back, Mick Doohan transiting across from 500 cc's, and they had 22 wins. So where does this leave us for the race, Jerez? I've had a look at the weather, and it seems to be going to be okay for the weather. So that puts us down to a normal weekend of activity. I think we've seen HRC improving. Zarco, I'm very impressed with Zarco. Quartararo and Miller. Miller goes well at Jerez. I think there's a chance there. Alex Marquez, I think, hasn't done great there. I think he ran around in 8th in 23 or something like this. But for me, it's Mark Marquez for the victory. I think Alex Marquez will come back from his long lap penalty, I should say, in Doha to finish in second. And I think Bagnaia, I think the pressure's on for Bagnaia. He has to win. And there's a phrase that we used to use back in the racing days, win or bin. So is he going to win it or is he going to bin it? I think in the main race, if he's genuine to himself and he has to win, there's only one choice. Go for the win at all costs. And I don't think that sees him, if he takes that attitude, I don't see that sees him finishing the race, which leaves the third place open. Again, with the great result of Vinales, the strength of KTM's at the previous. You've got Acosta talking about going back to last year's bike. Maybe they need to all go back onto the 23 bike and see if they can repeat the performance. I'd like to see Acosta do something. But really the VR46 boys, I think they're destined to jump into that place. So I think third place, I think Morbidelli or D'Antonio, I think one of those two guys will finish in third. If I have to say, I think it will be Morbidelli that'll run in third. I like to think Zarco will be in the top 10. Ogura, there's a chance there. I think Vinales has finished in the top 10 there when he was on the bike. So we'll see how that goes. But if you've got some thoughts, what are your tips for the race in Jerez coming up this weekend? Drop them down in the comments. Or if you want to make a comment about the Aprilia management, what are they going to do? How are they getting to the front? Who's going to ride the bike? Martin's out. He's going to be out at least for 2 or 3 more Grand Prix. Plus the mental scarring. Every time he rides that bike, he gets broken. That's got to do something. And what is your tip for HRC? Is Acosta going to be the 30 million euro man? And what about Toprak? I mean, these are interesting topics. Quartararo and Miller, obviously, to run. But drop your thoughts. If you've enjoyed this, please give it a thumbs up. And if you'd love to subscribe, that'd be great. And let's see how the race goes, and we'll talk to you soon. Okay, bye for now.